Oh, oh, no one there. No one there. It's 6:30. Going live. Ah, this is my live stream for Wednesday. My wife is away. Nuk nech traknampu. Korak chodjich. Rech klingan wo tak judge. Get this set up. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's a little too loud there. And thank you for joining me, even though there's no one here right now. This is for I'm Gary for Bizarre Brain Comics, and what we're doing here tonight is just talk a little bit. See, there are two. Well, we're observing two um, booktube reading events. One is Rocket Summer, which is all about science fiction, primarily old science fiction, uh, and that's Rocket Summer. Takes the name from the title of a short story by Ray Bradbury, but the other part we're doing is because it's also book trek. So, talking about some Star Trek books, and in this case, comics for both of them. Comics for both of them. Since hey, this is Bizarre Brain Comics. So who is out there? Danny Boy. Hi. Hi. Nuknech Traknyon. Traknyon Danny Boy. So, yeah. You know, are you science fiction fans? I'm a big time, always have been science fiction fan and Star Trek fan. Going way back. Have Wild Fan, hi. Jers World, hi. Dustin, hi. Ooh, so I got 12. Hi, everybody. Hello, everybody. What else? Dustin, no. No, you're not a science fiction fan? It says hello. Good morning. I came across your live stream by accident. I'm new here. What are we going to be discussing in our today's live stream? By way, good morning from northern Japan. Wow, because this is Wednesday evening here in Colorado. And Mrs. Is that Oxlong? Are you a top or a bottom? I'm not even going to. And Danny Boy, yes, I had some Star Trek Gold Key comics when I was a kid, and I still have them. And some of the covers got cut so that I could put some Spock and Kirk on the closet wall with Scotch tape. I can understand it. Not Star Trek, but I would sometimes when I was a kid I would get a comic, usually find one that I like and then get a second copy, and I would cut it up and I would make collages of comic book characters. So yeah, this is I was going to talk about Rocket Summer, just some general science fiction, and I was going to start with some books because this is this is oh and Plum, hi. Would you rather watch a tree grow or a knee grow? Uh, oh, right now my knee's growing. Cheesy 50s sci-fi movies are awesome. Yes, they are. Even the ones that aren't cheesy, like Forbidden Planet is one of my favorites. Here we have Science Fiction of the 30s, and this is edited by Damon Knight, but it's reprinting a bunch of stories from the pulps from the 30s, and it's even got some of the illustrations in here. I wanted to show that. Wild Fen, that inappropriate joke is not appropriate. Please do not troll. We are all trying to enjoy the stream. Well, thank you. I don't really care as long as it's okay. Um, and of course, this happens to be Into the Meteorite Orbit by Frank Kelly. So they have all kinds of stuff like this, but this is, geez, because it's been just about 100 years that science fiction as a separate genre has been around. In the started like in the 20s when it went through some names. Before that, it was just like all lumped together in as fantasy, but they started getting a little more sciency to it, and uh, I remember Flash Gordon comics. Yeah, I did a live stream and have done several episodes on Flash Gordon comics, and did a live stream on the comic strip a few months ago, and and but then I'm not going to take these out. But if you can see it, this is like from the 50s. Here we got pulp magazines. This is like startling stories. As Passport to Jupiter. I know it's backwards. I can't help it. That's just the way this works. I wish I could do it differently, but it won't do that. Flash Gordon, yeah, he doesn't care. It's okay. And Wild Fan. Didn't science fiction really bloom when L. Ron Hubbard made his first science fiction novel? No, it was before. It was before L. Ron Hubbard. It was, geez, who coined the term science fiction? I'm thinking it was Hugo Gernsback, but I'm not positive. He was a publisher or editor. I can't remember which. And here's also from the 50s. Pulp magazine. This is Super Science, and I've shown these before in on some of my episodes. It says original Star Trek series can be summed up with this line: "He's dead, Jim." He's dead, Jim. Yeah. And then we also have this other from the 50s, another one, future science fiction. These are all some nice pulps from the and of course the pulps were the progenitors of the comics. A lot of the especially science fiction writers and artists slid right very easily into into the comics, like Otto Binder. Um, 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 right now, I can't think of them. Just because I need to, I can't think of them. But yeah, a lot of the writers, Edmund Hamilton and the like. And then, of course, I just had to show this. This is a book that I've had read many times, and I've had for many decades. And this is just one of them. Planet of the Apes. We all love, and we're apes fans around this household, I tell you. Planet of the Apes. Of course, by Pierre Boulle. But we're here to talk about comics. So, and these are kind of worn out, so I'm not thinking. But in the 50s, 40s and 50s, comics kind of bloomed and the science fiction stuff. It says, do you think that the future that the science fiction writers dreamed of in the 50s and wrote about being in the 2000s now lived up to any of their expectations? No. We were, if anything, they didn't look. The stuff that they were imagining had to be has to be farther down the road. Most of it. Of course, there are other things that most of them could not even have imagined the internet. Even 35 years ago, 40 years ago, no one could have conceived of the internet as we know it. And it says original Star Trek. Oh, I already read that one. Then I have here. This is EC Comics, EC Science Fiction Comics, and this is a paperback book. I've got a couple of them here, and I've shown these on episodes before, but not on live stream. EC Science Fiction Comics, and Tales of the Incredible in the old comics tradition. It's paperback, regular paperback, but it says, and it's in real rough shape, so I don't want to take it out of the plastic. Same thing for this other one. This other one is Tomorrow Midnight, and these are all EC Ray Bradbury stories, and both of these books, and I have two versions of two volumes of the horror books too. Another one was all Ray Bradbury stories, and they're all classic Frank Frazetta painted covers on those the comics. But of course, comics really came into their own. I mean, science fiction really blossomed, of course, in the pulps, but in the comic strips too. You know, Buck Rogers started out as a pulp magazine story. It says message retracted. I wonder what. Do you think that the? Oh, I already read that one. Wonder why he retracted it. But there are many others. Science fictions, of course, Flash Gordon, which I did a whole live stream on Flash Gordon of the comics and comic strips, and an episode on Buck Rogers of the comic strips. But Buck Rogers started as the pulps, and Flash Gordon, why it didn't start from the pulps, it was inspired by the pulps, primarily John Carter of Mars. And here we have. This is from Dragon Lady Press, and this is from what year was this? This I can't find it right here handy. Doesn't matter. It's about 40 years old. Dragon Lady Press. Brick Bradford, another science fiction strip. Flash Gordon and on Mongo. So I've got a few comics I've collected. They're mostly the half dime and dime novels from the late 1890s. Ooh, Dick Deadwood. Oh yeah. Those were Deadwood Dick. Oh yeah. I would love to have some of those. I've got a volume that is reprinting some of the old dime novels from the West. Some of those stories. But I haven't read it yet. Brick Bradford. This was similar to Flash Gordon, except instead of going into outer space, he was shrunk down and going to inner space with the electrons, subatomic particles as solar systems and the stuff and the like. And I can't find who did this. Brick Bradford. And it doesn't say who the creators are. That's odd. But this is cool. Daily strips. Some cool stuff. And I haven't read any of that in years. And we also have another comic strip. There's UFOs Battle in Outer Space, issue 1 of Twin Earths, written by O. Lebeck with art by Al McWilliams. And of course, Al McWilliams later, for quite a while, did Star Trek for Gold Key, and also did some Flash Gordon for Gold Key, and also did some books of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And some really trying to find some of the really nice stuff. He has some really nice artwork. But this is Twin Earths. It's like another Earth on the other side of the sun, and but it was more advanced, and they wound up having some kind of battle between the two versions of Earth. And I've been forgetting to see here, Danny Boy. What did you say was inspired by John Carter of Mars? Oh, Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon. They couldn't get, from what I understand, they could not get the rights to Flash Gordon for a comic strip. So Alex Raymond developed his own science fiction thing, largely inspired by John Carter. Good evening from beautiful Delray Beach, Florida. Ooh, yeah, you're even quite a bit later. Hello, who is that from? David Funson. Oh, good. Says, yeah, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe by the power of Grayskull. Yeah. I don't know if you can see this. Where's some of the... Anyway, Al McWilliams did some really, really nice stuff. And here's another yet another newspaper strip. And I want to do an episode on this sometime. This is from Blackthorn Publishing, Comic Strip Preserves, and this is from the late 80s, I don't remember what year, which is Beyond Mars by by Jack Williamson. It was written by Jack Williamson and drawn by Lee Elias. And Jack Williamson was um, one of those pulp science fiction writers. I've read some of his novels too. Uh, got a whole, yeah, Dick Tracy comics. Oh yeah, I don't have so much from the 30s, but I have several books from various times. I love Dick Tracy, and one of these days I'll probably do. I've done an episode of my regular on my regular channel on Dick Tracy, and a couple of times, and I'll probably do an episode here on the live stream. Just got every comic book from Spider Woman series. David, oh, good deal. I only ever got a few of them. Yeah, and this is Lee Elias because he was did a lot of comic book work as well. But he's some. Let me see if I can find something really interesting here. Lee Elias was his art style, especially back then. He was very strongly influenced by Milton Caniff of Terry and the Pirates and Steve Canyon. And I really like this series, both the art and the stories. Of course, this is from the 50s. It has a very 50s look to it. And of course, as I mentioned before, with some EC science fiction, weird science. You got weird science. This is the Al Feldstein cover. Oh, and here's a. Yeah, some Wally Wood. Of course, Wally Wood is he's magnificent stuff. A whole variety of things. And this cover here, another Wally Wood cover, incredible science fiction, number 11. Of course, these are reprints from the 80s or 90s. But these aren't. I forgot to take these out of the plastic first beforehand. I meant to do that, and it slipped my mind when I was getting ready. Is from ACG Comics, American Comic Troupe, Stories of Strange Adventures, Forbidden Worlds. This is number. I can't tell what number it is, but Forbidden Worlds. This is a Kurt Schaffenberger cover, but this is the kind that was. There's some spooky, and because they verged on unusual and science fiction stuff, so I lump them in with science fictions. Some weird aliens. Come on, where's one of the others? Blueprint for Invasion. Oh yeah, some of the corny corny 50s science fiction. And this is another one. I don't see the number on it. Forbidden Worlds. This I hear it's written by a guy from New Jersey in the United States. What kind of cool comics? Message retracted. Message retracted. Would you consider the Addams Family a science fiction comic? I know it was really just a newspaper comic strip, but could it be considered a comic? It was. Addams Family was primarily, of course, in Slick magazines, and by Charles Addams, and it was usually just a single panel gag. But I would consider it a form of, if the Far Side can be considered a comic strip, Addams Family could be considered a comic strip. Forbidden Worlds. Was it Addams Family? No, definitely not science fiction. That would be closer to horror. And then here from DC, this is 64-page giant, Strange Adventures. Of course, this is actually from the 60s, if not the 70s. Number 229, reprinting some older science fiction stories from the 50s or 60s. And this one here is Strange Adventures. This is Adam Strange Adventures. War in Washington, 1990 AD. Because they were looking ahead about 30 years. And then another one featuring a classic one here. Strange Adventures 242, uh, World War on Earth and Ran. Is Adam Strange, and I always liked Adam Strange, and I always considered not anymore. Adam Strange is lumped in with superheroes, but I don't consider him a superhero. If anything, he's more like a combination of Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers. That's right. And then this one is I actually did a whole episode on this particular issue from Quest. Quest Comics. Quest presents Lance Kerrigan of the Galactic Legion, and there's some really cool retro artwork on the inside. And I wish it had that artwork on the outside. I have another issue with that kind of artwork. But, so that is the first part. That is dealing with the Rocket Summer stuff. I don't need that. I can shut that off. It's not doing any good. Yep. Too much light as it is. I don't need that light on me. Okay. It says, a friend of mine does the promo work for DC Comics. Oh, cool. See if he can give me some work. I know. Just remember the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was done by Mirage in the 80s, was not intended for children and was actually had to be heavily censored before they could put. Yeah, it was intended for more for adults, and it was still kind of tongue in cheek. It was originally intended to be parody of the mutant craze, and at the time the funny animal craze that was going on, and they put them together. So did that mean Little Orphan Annie is also considered a comic, even though it was a strip? Yeah, it's comics because it's comic strips. Little Orphan Annie, but definitely not science fiction. Okay, now we're going to kind of switch over to book Trek. Star Trek. Yay! Woo-woo. That's what I was playing when I started the theme to Star Trek. And I'm wearing my Starfleet jersey. It says, I think Adam Strange was really super inspired by John Carter. There's some certain similarities there too. I knew someone who went to school with Marvel Comics CFO son. I guess that makes me 2 degrees away from Stan Lee. Yeah. Yeah, could be. Never got to meet Stan Lee. Met several others, but now this is of course Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry. I was just going to say, oh yeah, I got just a little story to tell. Because my wife and I have been involved in Star Trek fandom for decades. We used to have a Klingon club, and at one time we had, to our knowledge, through the Klingon Language Institute, we were the only regularly scheduled Klingon language class in the world by the Klingon Language Institute, and that was cool. And that leads me into the story. I've told it on an episode of my regular channel, but we're getting into Star Trek here. So about 3 months ago, I had surgery on my knee. I had a slip and fall accident and had to have surgery. And when I was in recovery room and coming out, I was still in the drugged stupor, right? And so I go, said to the nurse, I go, betting all wit, and I was pointing to my finger, betting all wit. And she goes, what? And she went out, got my wife, and said, does your husband speak English? And he goes, well, yeah. She come in and I was going, Becca, betting all wit. So, and I said, Beck, and because she said, oh, he's speaking Klingon. And that's right. Odd as it was, I could think English. But for the first few minutes after I came out of it, I could only speak Klingon. In just a few minutes it came back. But I thought that was funny. I know someone who went to school. Oh, I already read that one. So that's that story. here for Star Trek. And here, I just want to show this. Uh, this is a book, an old copy too, of The Making of Star Trek by Stephen E. Whitfield and Gene Roddenberry. And it has, of course, a lot of the pictures on the back and a lot of pre-production stuff, photographs inside, props, and sets, all kinds of cool stuff, as well as photographs on the set and on location of the production. And that's really cool stuff there. And since we're talking books, of course, there are bunches of Star Trek novels, and I've read a lot of them. I'm just going to show a couple here. Is Star Trek: The Price of the Phoenix, which I haven't finished. I need to get back to. Is one I've been reading, and Price of the Phoenix, of course. This is kind of a sequel to. I can't remember the name of the episode now. I apologize. My Klingon is a little rusty, but I hope I say that's correct. Kapla. Chikongwij. I can't make it out. The Tiv Judge. Pongkatwij. I can't make it out. I'm sorry. Korak Chod Jich. Ponglij. Nuk. Nuk Och Ponglij. Pongwij. So that is what is your name. And Pong. All that stuff. And then we have. They don't list the author, but this is a reproduction, which I got probably 20 years ago, of Star Trek Mission to Horatius. Hardback book. This was. It was written by Mac Reynolds. Okay, it's one of these type of books, novels. Okay, and then comics. Star Trek comics, of course. I'm much more fluent in the language of the elves. I apologize. My knowledge of the language is outside of the current star system is quite abysmal. Oh, that's fine. We used to be a lot better. In fact, we used to give language classes at the conventions. My wife and I. But there's so much stuff that we don't remember anymore. I remember it more than she does. Of course, shortly after it came out on TV, it started coming out in comics at Gold Key Comics, and I didn't dig out any of the Gold Key comics other than it's one of the volumes here, the Gold Key Collection, Volume 3, reprinting a lot of the stories. I think in this series they reprinted all. I've got several volumes. I haven't got all the volumes of these. Well, not this between the reprint volumes that Gold Key published in the 70s, and then these, which are more recent. I think I have them all, and it's really cool. Of course, this is stuff drawn by Alberto Giolitti. He did some really great stuff, and Al McWilliams was pretty good too. It's hot today. I'm down in the basement where it's cool, and I'm sweating up a storm. But it was about 100 degrees today here in the Denver area. But of course, it was just shortly after, just a few months after the Gold Key lost the license. It went to Marvel, and they started off with an adaptation. I don't have the regular floppy adaptation here. See, speaking Klingon while under anesthetic after surgery, I find your behavior highly illogical. Oh, no one said I was a Vulcan, even though I rely more on reason and logic than a lot of people. Because this is a paperback reprint of the the comic adaptation of Star Trek: The Motion Picture. That's cool stuff. And I also have a whole bunch of the photo novels, Star Trek photo novels. Not all of them, but does not include the motion picture, but it does have Wrath of Khan. That's cool stuff. And also from Marvel, this is Star Trek #5. So this would have been very shortly after the adaptation. And was this one McCoy Killer? No, it's not. Some really nice stuff. I forgot to take these out of the plastic too. I'll just take one of them out. And the Marvel stuff back then wasn't nearly as good. I mean, I still enjoyed them. weren't as enjoyable as any of them. Who did this? Oh, Dave Cockrum and Klaus Janson did that one. Then I have issue #9 here. I have some others out there. I just kind of grabbed a bunch that was handy. Kirk, Spock, the Enterprise, trapped in the web of ghostly vengeance. And then here's Star Trek #15 from Marvel. Looks like, oh, but it is Doctor. That can't be Captain Kirk. Ooh, looks like the devil. But then, of course, it wasn't long before Marvel lost the license and DC picked it up. And so DC had it all through the movie years in the 80s and early 90s. And in my opinion, DC did the best, both stories and writing and art overall over the years. And here's some graphic novels, actually albums from the DC years. Who Killed Captain Kirk? Said, your discussion of comics has made me want to go looking for my pile of old 1930s and 40s Dick Tracy comics and reread them. I'll be right back. Going to go try to find them. Well, you can't wait because we're not going to be here much longer, I think. Oh yeah, even the Klingons. Of course, you can tell it. And this is long before they had Worf as supposedly the first Klingon in Starfleet. In DC, they had a Klingon on the Enterprise in Starfleet. I've forgotten his name. I even wrote an article about it for our club newsletter. And this is written by Peter David, of course, whom we just recently lost, Peter David, and drawn by Tom Sutton and Gordon Purcell. And Tom Sutton drew classic Trek for many years here, but even though he's probably best remembered for both his humor stuff and the horror stuff that he did at Charlton in the 70s. You then have The Best of Star Trek, introduction by Nicholas Meyer. Oh, it says Mike Barr, Dan Jurgens, Diane Duane, Kurt Swan, Peter David, James Fry, Tom Sutton, and Gordon Purcell. And of course, and if you don't know, Nicholas Meyer was director of Undiscovered Country. But he was also a novelist. Wrote some Sherlock Holmes novels, and even adapted one of his novels and directed it as a movie. Oh, and here's one of the stories. It's a flashback to the original 5-year mission. Here in the best of. Had various artists, and they even had in DC. They even had I don't think it's in here, and they had an occasional flashback stuff. And they had one issue that was drawn by Alberto Giolitti, who drew Star Trek for Gold Key. See, Malcolm McDowell killed Captain Kirk. Yes, Yes, he did. Unfortunately, found it turns out they were in a box in the back of the closet in my tatami mat room. Oh, okay. Uh, Behind the pile of spare futons. Cool. That's Sprites you've got in play right there. And then here is Star Trek: The Modala Imperative, and this was reprinting a mini series, and it was a crossover. Part of it was told in classic Trek, and part of it was told in Next Gen. And just before my wife had to leave for her um, beekeepers meeting, she we watched a couple of episodes of Star Trek, and I love Next Gen. I have a lot of Next Gen too, but I just didn't have grab any of those. All I basically grabbed was classic Trek, still from DC, Star Trek number 26, and they had in these years they had to, even though the movies took place short, in quick succession, and 2, 3, and 4, but they had like 2 to 3 years in between that space when they still had stories, comic book stories to write. But they managed to fit them in. It's always had some good artwork, good covers. And here's issue 56 with Kirk disguised as a Klingon, back in time. I covered one of the issues from this storyline. I think here's issue number 58. Oh, oh yeah. And speaking of which, it says Garzon. One of the artists is also Carlos Garzon, who had been an assistant to Al Williamson, who did Flash Gordon stuff. Then Carlos Garzon did some Flash Gordon stuff for Charlton and or Gold Key, and then here he is doing Star Trek. And then after DC lost the license, Marvel got it again, and they did some interesting things. Less of the regular classic stuff. They had picked up doing some of the newer shows like Deep Space Nine and Voyager, and of course Next Gen. But they also had like this Starfleet Academy, which I'm going to do an episode on the Klingon one of these days. This is when Rom's son Nog went to went to the Starfleet Academy, and this is about characters that he knew then, and they also went back to Captain Pike. So now it would be basically Star Trek Discovery, but it wasn't. This was Star Trek the early voyages. I did one on an episode on one of these too, and it's awesome, all really great stuff. I love the Star Trek comics. I love the novels. Even, of course, they had the novelizations by James Blish, and then had the animated series and novelizations of that by Alan Dean Foster, and he did a really good job. He was king of the novelizations, and he did a lot on that. So anything. Okay, what's the meaning of life, if you don't mind my asking? Well, I can tell you what's best in life. Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women. Howdy, who's that? Family to family. Hi, howdy. So that's what. Whoops, I got some ash sprinkled around here, and I was. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you this because that's all the stuff I really had prepared for Star Trek. But still, I'm ready for. What's the? Oh, I just read that one. Here's a little Klingon sculpture that I made about 25 years ago. Actually, had little points on the beard, similar to mine, but they got broke off. But Nuknech Traknyan. Ich Judge Kara. Nukdakoch. Pooch Paet. Nukdak Yuchtapo. Where do you keep the chocolate? Just so you know, the meaning of life is. Oh, yes, of course. 42. What? Wedge. Losh. Losh Cha. Losh Cha is 42 in Klingon, according to the Hitchhiker's Guide in the Galaxy. I, I missed it. I missed it. And I also want to show you. I got this. This is a sketchbook, Deep Space Nine sketchbook, and but these pages on this are I don't know if you can see them, have blue grid, and I don't know why you don't really need them, but at least I don't. But I did them anyway. And this is so these are drawings that I did. What this earliest one is '97, so it tells you how long it goes. But I would use this almost exclusively for Klingon drawings, like uh, Kang and his wife. Says, just so you know. Oh yeah. And there's some others. Klingon stuff, and I want to show you some of these. And a lot of these I have made Xerox copies of, and made Xerox books of some of these drawings, including some of these drawings. Just a little my Klingon sketchbook. Here's one I really liked. Klingon warrior on Klingon equivalent of a horse. How's the bees and the honey? Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. The missus is anxious to get in there and start doing some honey extraction, because she's got one hive that's got a lot of frames that are almost ready to go. There's block portraits. And here, and I got some of these are like this one are people from our club in the Klingon gear. I used to ask my mom to please tell me when it was a few minutes before 7, so she could call me from playing outside and I can go in and watch Star Trek. Unfortunately, I only got to see Star Trek one episode on my original run, because something else that my dad wanted to watch was on at the same time. And there's another one. Is that for Klingon? And, oh, this one is of me in my Klingon gear from a photograph of me at a convention. But I got to watch all the Star Treks in reruns, and read all the episodes in the books. I've read so many of the novels since then. Now they're Klingons. Drawings, yeah. And I'll just show a couple more and leave it at that. Oh. Bird of Prey. Of course, they got the Bird of Prey, of course, for Search for Spock. Originally, they're supposed to be Romulans, not Klingons, for that film. But they already had the model of the ship built, and so they just made it a Klingon ship. And then they have Birds of Prey for both Romulans and Klingons. They got the bird of supposedly they had a technology exchange, and the Klingons got the Bird of Prey from the Romulans, and the Romulans got and the cloaking device from the Romulans, and the Klingons and the Romulans got a warp drive from the Klingons. She looks wicked. Oh, here's another. So many of these that I've just done were from the club, and this is really kind of. When he was in gear, this is Dave, and when he was in gear, he just looked cool. And we were doing a photo shoot out of Red Rocks, and he just sat there and waiting. I took a picture of him, and he just looked so cool. Here's another one. This is kind of a montage from 3 photographs that I took of him. He was an old man. I can't remember his name. Why not? And I like this one. This one. There's a Klingon fighting a Mogato. If you remember Mogato from one of the classic Trek episodes. The white, that white ape that nearly killed Kirk. Here's B'Elanna Torres in her Klingon uniform. And for those, this is surprising because we went before they started showing the prequels. They had showed the re-released the original three, original Star Wars trilogy, and with the new special effects and stuff. And we went to that dressed as Klingons, and we went to the first Star Trek experience that was held here in Denver as Klingons. My wife and I, we were the only ones. We had a lot of other people from our club there, but no one else dared to go as Klingons. We did, and we got to meet some of the people. It was even, and we were even got included in a documentary. If you've ever seen or look at called Star Voids, it's not a very good documentary, but we are in it. If the only Klingons in there, and that's us. But this is here a cartoon I did after the Phantom Menace. It's Klingon with a cauldron, and he's cooking Jar Jar Binks because we didn't like Jar Jar Binks. And Gowron. We met Gowron. Robert O'Reilly played Gowron a few times. Once in Vegas. Once in San Francisco at a Klingon convention, and once at a convention here. We got to meet him and J.G. Hertzler, and got to party with him. Boys like to party. So that's what I have got. Do you have any of you out there still have anything? Huh? This is I think probably the longest live stream I've done so far. But anybody else have any comments, any questions? And because that's all the comics that I had dug out, and now I gotta put them back up in a pile and put them away again. Oh, love the comics, and I still got ash. I'll have to vacuum the floor tomorrow. So, but if not, oh, thanks. I'm glad you like it, Danny boy. Glad you like the drawings. If that's all the comments, questions, what have you, I will close it down for now. But Doch Judge Wo Edge Doch Judge Vodlech Ma with Toy Mo Vajnuku Moch Judge Ta Dun Wo Maj Edge Coach Chuch Vai Vaj Dash Me Maj Bing Dach Jach Debek Moch Chu Jai. Take care, you too. Thank you for joining me. And we actually sang that. Yes, sang that in front of an audience at Red Rocks. That's the Warriors, the Imperial Anthem. Kapla! Rek Klingon Wo! Tach Judge! And I always have difficulty shutting it off. But thank you all for joining me.